Hello and welcome back to the Red Alert Armory series. Today we are going to be talking about Commandos from the Red Alert series. First off, I have to say, wow, I played Red Alert 2, and Red Alert 3 all through my childhood, and I didn't realize, having never played the Red Alert expansion packs, there were extra commandos that I had to do for this video. So some of this is going to be very new information for me. On the other hand, this is mostly going to be the Tanya show, as she is the one recurring character that we see throughout everything in the commando position. So I will start off with her. Tanya was a mercenary commando working with the Allies during the Second World War. In Red Alert 1, she was an American commando wielding dual Colt M1911s and C4 charges. She had very light protection, but was extremely fast, very athletic, and very capable of dodging most incoming fire. Her reference in the manual says, "Armed with 245s, Tanya can mow through infantry like they weren't even there. Her C4 explosives can destroy buildings if you can get her to them. Unlike other units, Tanya can never be put in guard mode. You must naturally and manually target all enemies that you wish to be attacked. No infantry is protected against Tanya. Anything that gets close to her, including the heaviest of infantry, are vulnerable. But she, in turn, is vulnerable to vehicles that have heavier armor and attack dogs that can kill her in one hit if they get close enough." Interesting fact about her is that she was the generic commando of Red Alert and could be trained by both Allies and Soviets in multiplayer. Indeed, she could appear and be killed in Soviet missions, both in the main campaign and in the expansion pack. Though after Aftermath, she is no longer available to the Soviets in multiplayer, as she is replaced by the new shock troopers. She was a favored unit by Adam Isgreen, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, as a result of his fascination with John Woo's Hong Kong films. Very interesting bit of information. But what was even more interesting that I did not know was that she had a pair that she was supposed to get in the first game that she never ended up getting because she was cut. This unit was called Megan, ex-IRA demolitionist and stealth unit, complementing Tanya's gung-ho attitude. Fortunately, she was cut, but as you can see from this screenshot, it would have been a very interesting character and a good juxtaposition to Tanya. Unfortunately, due to game balancing, they decided to cut the character, but just imagine what it would have been like if they had kept it. Very interesting indeed. In the second game and Third World War, Tanya is noted as a unit that directly rivals the U.S. Navy SEALs in terms of skill, if not overtakes them. She is armed with dual pistols and C4, and protected by a sports bra, camouflage pants, and military boots, with an addition of a coat in Operation Dark Knight. She is able to swim long distances, allowing her to plant explosives on the hulls of enemy ships, and she could self-heal at a slow rate due to improved provisions, which assumedly means that she had access to advanced healing items in the field. After the defeat of the Soviet Union, she was also trained to resist mind control, in the case they had to combat it again, which they did immediately with the surfacing of Yuri. She was also trained to use C4 charges on ground vehicles, which is something that the Navy SEALs cannot do. Red Alert 2 manual explains her thus: "The most versatile infantry unit of the Allied forces is Tanya. About as fast as a typical GI, Tanya has the ability to swim across rivers and oceans. While not that powerful against vehicles, Tanya's powerful weapon kills off enemy infantry units with a single shot. Tanya can also plant C4 charges on enemy buildings and ships, destroying them instantly. Planting C4 charges on repair huts of bridges allows Tanya to destroy bridges as well." In Red Alert 3, we have a blonde Tanya, played by Jenny McCarthy, and armed with 2 Black Buzzard custom pistols and the eponymous C4 plastic explosive charges. The version of Tanya can do anything that the previous Tanya could do. A special exception, she can also use something called a time belt, which allows her to travel 5 seconds back in time, recovering health and getting away from large, dangerous targets. It was developed by Future Tech, and that's pretty much all we know about it. That it is a chrono device that doesn't change the rest of the world around her like a typical chronosphere would do, making it more similar to the chronosphere superweapon than the main from the chronospheres that changed the timeline. Moving on to the Soviets, first commandos that we see is Volkov, the cybernetic dog, appearing in the Counter-Strike missions. Before becoming a cyborg, Volkov wasn't the most incredible soldier in Stalin's army, and after, he became nigh unkillable. In fact, he had to be captured, and then later reprogrammed by the Allies before eventually being killed. He's armed with an automatic HE cannon in the Counter-Strike missions, the sniper rifle in the Aftermath test drive, high-caliber pistol in the mission's Situation Critical, and C4, both uncrushable and self-healing. There's not much more to say about this particular villain, as not much is known about his character. Moving on to another one that we know hardly anything about, we get to Boris, the Commando infantry unit in Red Alert 2, Yuri's Revenge. The manual has this to say about Boris. Boris is highly effective against infantry thanks to his rapid fire. Rather than using C4 charges to eliminate structures, Boris is able to call an airstrike of MiG fighters to bombard any structure he targets with this laser designator. Boris is equipped specially designed AKM assault rifle and can dispatch most infantry with a single burst of fire. It is also very deadly versus vehicles, and while less instantaneous than Tanya in taking care of buildings, he is able to do so from a much safer distance. Also, like Tanya, he is resistant to mind control, though he is unable to swim. Moving on to Red Alert 3, we move on to Natasha Volkova, a Soviet commando played by Gina Carano of all people. Very interesting. Natasha is an elite Soviet Black Ops agent. Very little information is available about her past. The woman herself is a seasoned professional, and in the words of some, a cold-blooded killer. She only deals with the most severe affairs of the Union. While the Union's agencies continuously dismiss or incarcerate journalists who question Natasha's military conduct due to reports of shocking cruelty that she shows on the battlefield, or the validity of some sources of her life career, the rumors persist. She is armed with a Khrushchev SV sniper rifle, a laser target designator, and a Kevlar-based sports bra and bottom, which I'm sure is very good for blocking bullets. Interesting bit of trivia about her is that there is some indication that cloning technology might persist in this universe, just in a less developed form, as one of her quotes is, should she die, she says, "Should I die, another shall arise." Continuing a theme of cloning, we see next Yuriko, a survivor of the deadly Omega program that Japan used to create psionic soldiers. She was an incredibly powerful psychic soldier, able to decimate dozens and dozens and dozens of highly trained, highly powerful infantry and vehicle units. She can use her psychic powers to attack anything on the ground and in air. Flies about the battlefield using telekinesis. Little is known of her past, although she and the next one in line here will get a video onto themselves discussing their past and abilities in more detail. Yuriko was cloned in the Shiro Sanatorium to be used as soldiers on the battlefield and as power sources for their superweapons. While the original escaped and is now at large. Interesting bit of trivia on her is that the suffix of ko in her name denotes child in Japanese, making her name Daughter of Yuri. This has been disproven by EALA, as her name translates to Daughter of Lillies, but it is an interesting connection to the Yuri of the previous game, who we are going to talk about now. Yuri is a Romanian Soviet Special Forces member and a commando in both the Russian USSR Army and his own army. Like I said, he'll get his own video, but suffice to say, he is capable of controlling any individual unit, which includes up to air units, buildings, and entire aircraft carriers, making him possibly the single most dangerous unit to ever exist in the Red Alert universe. Add on to that, with his psychic amplifiers, he is able to use his psychic domination technology to control the entire world at one time. Interesting bit of trivia, he does seem to resemble Vladimir Lenin in Kane, with a bald head and goatee. Also, he has the Hebrew letters for Resh, Vav, and Yod are tattooed on his head, which roughly spells out his name Yuri, although there are some grammatical errors in how it's set up. With that last bit of trivia, this has been the Command & Conquer Red Alert Armory's explanation of the commandos from that universe. I hope everyone has enjoyed themselves and learned a little bit something about them. Some of these characters will be getting their own videos, and I hope to see you all again soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.